what's next on our list?
So next on our list is don't pitch slap,
Oh,
which is an amazing term. I wish I could say I made it up.
yeah. It's an amazing term. It's not such a great practice. So again, if people haven't come across it before, better just explain that. It's Pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the most important thing. So yeah, pitch slap is where you connect with someone and you immediately send them a pitch, or you might have been connected with someone for 5 years and you just pitch them without kind of you've done absolutely no research on them, you've put absolutely no effort into that message, and you've put absolutely no effort into building the relationship. You just out of nowhere try to sell them something.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Charli Hunt. Charli is founder of Line1, and we're going to talk about the state of LinkedIn today. So Charli, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I kind of got my questions lined up, so I think we're going to have a bit of fun. But could you just explain what Line1 is? Because I think it's relevant to why I've asked you to come and have this conversation.
Yeah, so the Line1 is a LinkedIn tool. It exists to help you get people from LinkedIn into your CRM or your sales sequence or whatever you do, and actually make some sales on LinkedIn.
Actually make some sales on LinkedIn. Wow, okay. And it's quite smart. You explained to me how it works. We might be able to touch on that nearer the end, and we'll certainly put a link in so people can go and find you. And I know you do a regular explain a little demo, don't you, every week? But yeah, the state of LinkedIn, and I kind of did emphasize the bloody state of LinkedIn because it just seems to be a bit of a mess at the moment. Or is it me being tired, grumpy? It's near Christmas. I always get a bit down. Or is it just in a state? What's your opinion?
I think it just depends on what corner of LinkedIn you've managed to get trapped into, really. So I think you just got to train the algorithm and don't linger on posts you don't like, don't engage with anything you don't like, and you'll tend to get the kind of nicer corners of the internet. And then also go and seek people out for yourself rather than just letting LinkedIn decide what it's going to kind of just show you with the algorithm.
Which Line1 helps with.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So it's my fault then. Oh, thanks for coming on. You
You're welcome.
painted yourself into a corner there, Fred. Don't expect any sympathy from me. No, I think you're right, and I don't do myself any favors by sometimes reading stuff I know that annoys me because it annoys me. I'm weird.
But there is, a lot of people have moved over from Twitter or X to LinkedIn now. So there's a lot more people on there. And when you get more people, they're not kind of, of the same, I guess, values as the people that you used to hanging out with. So there definitely has been a change. But yeah, so you're right. It probably has had a bit of a negative effect.
Yeah, and I mean, you also train people on LinkedIn, don't you? And kind of how to use it.
Yes.
There seems to me to be a certain sort of LinkedIn training that goes on, which is massively formulaic. And it's kind of, I think as part of the training, you probably get all the templates and people are saying the same stuff.
Yeah.
Even kind of what photo you should use. Yeah, use this photo with a laptop, use this photo looking over a mountain, use this photo on the beach. And it just, oh God, I've kind of seen it once, I've seen it a million times. Is that something that you think has happened, or again, do I keep clicking on it to get myself annoyed and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's when they're all coming after you, Fred.
No, yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of templated posts, and there's a lot of I mean, LinkedIn itself encourages a lot of AI content, doesn't it? So that's not great. That's not what we're on the platform for. So I think, yeah, that is one of the problems is these templates, and everybody, I guess, like when you first join LinkedIn, you're a bit scared. So you want to do what people kind of suggest works. And it just takes a little while to be confident and comfortable in being yourself. And yeah, there's a lot of boring B2B content out there, and I think that's what people think works for B2B, and it absolutely doesn't.
Yeah, and I guess maybe part of my current apathy is that a lot of people I speak to in real life, like out and about in actual offices and stuff, and I say, hey, you should be probably using LinkedIn, and they're like, can't be bothered. It's boring.
Yeah.
It's just full of stuff that we don't like. I kind of get it. I sort of try to defend it because I want them to do stuff to enhance their reputation. Because people will go and look, won't they? And they'll kind of check them out there.
Yeah.
But I can also get it why they just can't be asked.
No, I totally agree. And I think when you first join, it does feel like, yeah, you've got to just train the algorithm and you've got to kind of get used to using it. But I totally agree. And I think a lot of people are on LinkedIn because they want to be on Facebook, but being on LinkedIn makes them feel like they're doing some work. So I think there's kind of two sides to it as well, aren't there? Like, one is that it's just a sort of general social media platform, and then the other is that it's, everybody copies what they think works, but in reality, those people might be in a pod. You don't know. So
Oh, not the pods. The
exactly.
pods. Just explain what a pod is if people haven't come across that concept before.
Sorry, yeah.
No,
So
no,
there's
ditch it.
so there's two types of pods. So the first pod would be you're in a group of people, let's say, so I used to be in a group with marketing agencies, and whenever anyone puts a LinkedIn post out, everybody else has to like it and then ideally comment. So that's the first kind of pod. It's not as bad. The second kind of pod, I mean, it's still not amazing, and yeah, I wouldn't use them now. The second type of pod is these huge like services that you pay for. Some LinkedIn trainers put you in these pods without you knowing. If you sign up to a tool and it asks you to log into your LinkedIn account, read the terms and conditions, because a lot of the tools put you in these pods without you knowing as well. And it's basically fake engagement. So it's bots, it's these kind of poor users who don't know that their account's been put into it. It's just fake engagement, basically.
So they're selling you a service which is going to get you more engagement and then delivering on that service by, is it fraudulent? I mean, it,
It's
it doesn't sound particularly
so
ethical.
It's so immoral in my mind. So
Immoral. Okay.
firstly, you're pretending to someone, I'm going to get you these results. Technically, you have got them more impressions and more engagement, but with people who are being paid to do that. So there's absolutely no way they're going to buy your services. And
Yeah.
it doesn't show that there's no data to suggest it shows it to those people's networks or anything either. So firstly, that. Secondly, those trainers are using bots to get their engagement, and then they're selling people saying, "Oh, I can get you this level of engagement if you pay me, and these are the templates you need to use or whatever." It's not the bloody templates; it's the bots that are getting them these results.
It's not the templates, it's the bots. It's not the
Yeah,
templates, it's the bots. There we go.
exactly.
Let's go on a
Yeah.
march. Oh. Um, okay, so not going to use bots. I'm not use templates. I'm gonna not paint myself in the corner by looking at stuff that I shouldn't be looking at because then the algorithms think I'm gonna like it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do my own thing. And I need the ultimate guide to do this.
Yeah.
And you're smiling because you know what I'm talking about, the ultimate guide, because I saw one of Charlie's posts and it made me smile. And this is the sort of stuff that should get engagement, which is how not to be a dick on LinkedIn, the ultimate guide. I thought this is wonderful. This is exactly what we should be using this platform for, this podcast, to spread the word. Because actually the list is really, really, really cool. It's good advice, to not be a dick and actually do stuff that works. So let's go through that post. Let's have a look at those elements.
Okay.
Which bit are we going to start with?
Knowing whose content to comment on, I think that comes up first, right?
You're going to be right kicking, aren't you, on this?
Oh no, sorry. So comment on other people's content. That's the one that comes up first, right?
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is all about we're getting onto LinkedIn. You might be quite new at this, don't really know what's going on, and you're saying, right, first up, comment on other people's stuff. Talk me through why that's a good idea.
So firstly, if you can comment on 5 or 6 posts before your content goes out and 5 or 6 afterwards, LinkedIn's algorithm knows that you're active on the platform. So it's much more likely to show your content to other people's content. So there's that. There's the kind of selfish reason. The second reason is you're not on here to create a fan base. Even people like, I don't know if I want to dob them in, but some really, really big creators that I've listened to on some really big podcasts, they use pods to get engagement. So even it just doesn't work on LinkedIn. You know, even if it was, I don't think he uses pods, but Bill Gates, let's say, he's not getting a great level of engagement compared to his users because he's not replying to comments and stuff. Now, obviously, that's not part of his business strategy. It doesn't matter. But if you want to get engagement, you have to give engagement first. You are on here to build a community. You're not here to build followers and fans. Because LinkedIn, I mean, there's no point on LinkedIn. You're not being paid to create the content like you are on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. So what you need to do is you need to reach out to the right people. So the people that I have in my commenting strategy are current clients, potential clients. Obviously, they're really important. Potential partners, just people that I like and they're going to make me feel nice about being on LinkedIn. I think that's a really important segment because otherwise you're just going to read content and you're going to get tired of being on LinkedIn. And it is a long-term game, Fred, as you know, like B2B sales takes a while.
Yeah,
You've got
it
to
does.
build relationships and it doesn't take like a couple of weeks. So that's really important as well. And then the fifth one is thought leaders. So people who are doing well on LinkedIn, try to make sure they're not in a pod. It takes a little while to work out what pod stuff looks like, but if you kind of keep an eye out for it, after a few weeks, you'll get an idea of what it looks like. But so thought leaders in your industry is great. So Twitter is great for this. So if you go to x.com, type in digital marketers, for example, sort by list, you'll get loads of people who have come up with lists of thought leaders in these industries. You can then cross reference those with LinkedIn and find their LinkedIn accounts, add them to your follow up schedule, strategy, whatever, and get those thought leaders. So thought leaders kind of half is people who are already influential on LinkedIn and half is people who are just generally influential in your industry. You probably want some people who are influential in your industry but not influential yet on LinkedIn, because if you can be one of the early kind of supporters of their LinkedIn stuff, they're much more likely to stay your friend for the long term and they'll actually see your stuff. So yeah, and if people are getting a lot of comments, it is hard to stand out. You have to comment on their stuff like immediately when it goes out.
Okay, cool. So, why are you saying that? I am hearing social.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
social network, isn't it? And if you've gone to real life networking, there are people who run in, like skim the cards around the tables, and then naff off, and it's like never actually asked me anything. Even we didn't do any kind of, and you just see the cards are just left everywhere.
Yeah,
That's the equivalent, isn't it? It's going to rock up, post, and see you all, and that's going to work. It's not. You've got to get involved in those discussions if you can. And that's where it gets interesting, I found. Actually having a conversation, commenting because you want to, you like the person or you like what they're saying and you can learn something off the back of it. It's
yeah,
less of a job than it's less of the task that I've got to go in and do stuff on this damn platform. It actually becomes kind of more pleasurable.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the second thing? Not being a dick when we're on there.
The second thing is to give value in your content. So I think I see kind of two sides of this. So the first is some people give too much value. They're so amazing at like helping people understand what they do. They're teaching them, I don't know, how to be a copywriter, for example. And they give so much valuable educational content, but they never do a sales post. So people don't even know that they can work with them. So there's kind of that side. But then the other side is people who are creating content that's constantly selling, or they're just trying to get engagement, or they're not really adding any value to people's lives. Like I see so many of these, the template posts that we were talking about earlier, Fred. Like there's so many of these templated posts that don't actually give any value. If you read through them, their hook is great, the rest of the content shit. Like you need to be delivering on the hook at a very least, but you need to be thinking about your target audience and what are their pain points. So a really good way to do this is just go through, think of like, okay, what are the problems that my product or service solves? So here are the 20 problems that I can solve for people, big problems. And then turn those into a blog post. So let's say from the problem, like one of the problems is Lime. So one of the problems Lime solves is we help you not look like a dick on LinkedIn. So then we change the post around to how not to be a dick on LinkedIn, for example. So that kind of thing. And that is how you give the value, but then answer, then properly answer the question. And don't give away everything so that they don't have to buy from you, but properly answer the question so that they are getting some value from what you're saying. Or they're not going to be interested in it, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, on sales training, we talk about value, like beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder. And that's
Yeah.
what you're saying there. It's okay, who are you talking to? Yeah, because if you're on there to sell, and then look, people are either on there to sell or because they're bored, or
Yeah.
both. Both in my case. But okay, so the people you're selling to, that value, that thing they care about, that pain point, that desire, whichever word you want to use, the thing that they're going to be caring about, that is what you write about. Now,
Exactly.
that could mean you aren't going to get a ton of engagement because there might not be so many people in the world who care about that as much as they care about, say, like we were telling earlier, cats.
Yeah,
If you want a ton of
exactly.
engagement, put a picture of a cat.
Yeah.
I know that. I do that. You can tell when I'm a bit desperate. But then when I'm talking about B2B sales and particularly engineering or manufacturing sales, there aren't as many people who are bothered about it. But I don't care because I know that people are going to look at that and go, yeah, this guy knows what he's on about. And
Yeah,
you have to be
exactly.
comfortable with that, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you can worry about impressions and engagement if you want to. So like one example, I use impressions and engagement to see how difficult what I'm talking about is, how much it resonates with people. And so that is quite useful. But it's not what gets me sales. So I've got a post going out tomorrow actually. So on Tuesday, I posted a couple of weeks ago. Tuesday, I posted a post about I can't remember what it was about. It was about something like a common LinkedIn problem that everybody has. It got loads of engagements. It got 22,000 impressions. Great. It got me 3 clicks to the website. On Wednesday, I posted a sales post. I think it got something like 3,000 impressions, but I got something like 50 clicks to the website. So I don't care what I look like on LinkedIn. I mean, I do a bit, but I don't really. I just want people to click on the website and I want more people to use Lime.
Yeah.
And that's my goal. I don't care about the other stuff. And the other stuff helps contribute to the sales, but it's so hard not to lose track of what you care about. And what you've got to keep in your mind every single week is what is going to get me some sales.
It's easy to get distracted. Well, A, because there's so many people shouting about engagement.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, okay, don't click on them. I've got that. I've learned that. It's my big aha moment from this podcast. But if you are doing, so I talk about educate, entice, and engage as those three different sorts of posts. So, like, the engage post is cat, yeah, or it's some kind of silly story from kind of my past, whatever. They will get more engagement, and it's very easy, isn't it, to like get kind of excited by that. The dopamine kicks in, do more of those, and you kind of drift so far away from actually what are you? So, Fred, you talk about cats. You used to be a dog, and you were a beer bottle once, and then you're a rugby referee, and yeah, okay, so you're on a plane. But what are you doing on the plane? You're happy to get loads of people liking it. So yeah, but we don't know what you do. It's easy, isn't it, to kind of almost go down that, it's a pretty sliding slope.
Yeah.
Um, Useful, but just kind of almost work out when you're going to post those, why, and kind of have the balance right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think you need 3 things really. So when I'm like in December, when I'm kind of not that into using LinkedIn kind of every day, Tuesday, I'll do a post about something that I know is going to get me lots of engagement and impressions and new
Yeah.
followers. Wednesday, I'll do a sales post to capitalize on those new people and show them Lime. And then on Thursday, I'll do a kind of something more personal.
Okay.
Or educational. So I'm adding like value
Yeah.
people, I'm making friends and I'm selling stuff.
Yeah. Educate, engage, entice. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
different ways of saying the same thing. Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
exactly.
Um, Interesting. Good. Right. So we've got two things. What's next? What's next on our list?
So next on our list is don't pitch slap,
Oh,
which is an amazing term. I wish I could say I made it up.
Yeah. It's an amazing term. It's not such a great a great practice. So again, if people haven't come across it before, better just explain that. It's pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the most important thing. So yeah, pitch slap is where you connect with someone and you immediately send them a pitch, or you might have been connected with someone for 5 years and you just pitch them without kind of any, you've done absolutely no research on them, you've put absolutely no effort into that message, and you've put absolutely no effort into building the relationship. You just out of nowhere try to sell them something.
Yeah. It happens, doesn't it?
It
Yeah.
does.
And again, actually, the more I talk to you, the more as I don't help myself. In that I've got this silly game that I play where someone will send a connection request and I'll accept it just to see how fast before they pitch slap. I ought to get out more. Yes, that's what I'm coming to the conclusion. And I've actually stopped doing it because I realised it's just wasting so much of my time. But why do people do that, do you think?
I
Because it
think
doesn't
they
work. It doesn't work. It won't work. There's no reason why it would. It just makes no sense. But people do it. Why? What's going on?
I think they just want it to work.
Oh,
So
okay
I
then.
think so I think that, with out cold emails used to work really well. There's been a huge change with Yahoo and Google, and it just doesn't work at all anymore. But it was for me in 2019. I used to use cold emails for my copywriting agency. We had funny emails that went out to a fairly targeted audience, and they worked really well. And I didn't have to do anything. I just took warm meetings with warm leads. We're not in that world anymore. AI has meant that so many messages go out all the time. So I think people just do it because they want an easy option, and they probably care, and they think their service and product could really help you, and they do really care, and they really want you to buy that thing, and they want to be able to help you. They're just probably going about it in the wrong way. So I'm the same as you. I don't accept people who I think are going to pitch slap me, but I kind of, if anyone, if anyone tries to sell to me, I just try to sell back. I'm like, did you know there's a better way of doing this and you could use Lime?
So, I mean, for a LinkedIn trader, actually, that's a smart move. Is you just reverse straight away. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just annoying, and it makes it so that people don't want to be in their messages and their DMs. And I also think that Sales Navigator kind of promotes it in a way, because they get you to make lists of people, then you send a message to those people, and that's it, rather than building up a relationship with them. And Sales Navigator is brilliant. It's such a good way to find people in your target audience. But I just don't, I think it's a bit old-fashioned, this kind of one email and done, like one and done. It just doesn't work.
I mean, are you saying don't DM people at all, or are we saying there's actually a better, more elegant way that we can start the conversation? We can start to do stuff.
No, you absolutely. I think DMs are really important. I think they're the scary sales bit that a lot of people don't do. But there's a way of doing them. So for Lime, it's actually like, because the cost is not very much per month, it's not really worth me DMing people because it takes up a lot of time. But if you're selling something of higher value, then I recommend like commenting on their posts for a little while, working out how you can help them specifically and what specific problems you can help with, build a relationship with them, then just kind of gently open the conversation in the DMs and kind of see how you go. So that's one way of doing it. You could also, so some people obviously don't post on LinkedIn. So if you go into their activity feed and you go to comments, they might add comments on other people's posts, and you can make friends with them that way by just commenting on their comment. And you start to kind of build up an idea of who they are and what they want. Otherwise, you are going to have to go in with a cold DM. But I think, we like a lot of people work from home now, so even sending people personalized post is not that easy anymore.
Mm.
Email cold outreach is done. Marketing directors, let's say you're aiming at them, they probably go to like what, 2 conferences and events a year, maybe. It's really hard to reach them, but they will be on LinkedIn almost certainly, even if they're just lurkers on there. So I sent a message to a guy from LexisNexis about 5 years ago. He took 2.5 years to come back to me, didn't reply at all. 2.5 years later, he's like, I really love your content. I've been looking at it because you sent me that DM, and I really want to work together now. So it does work, but you've got to get over that hump of like, they're not going to reply. some people just aren't going to reply, and it's not a reflection on you. It's nothing personal. They're just busy and they don't need your service right now and they can't be bothered to reply. That's just all.
Well, I mean, if they're in demand, they might read it, say, "I'm going to reply to that in a bit," but they're getting so many DMs that it's actually the inbox isn't very good, is it? I mean, it just gets lost. So,
Yeah.
what about video? Um, I'm kind of liking video at the moment. As in, I received a video the other day, and it must be the first one I've had for months, and it was recorded for me, so and it wasn't AI because I could tell that the guy said, "Hey Fred, I want to speak to you about blah blah blah." I responded. I mean, even I didn't really think it was going to go that far. I thought, well, yeah, I'll give this person a chance because they've thought about it, and I might be missing something here. And if they've done
Yeah.
that research, hey, I want to see, or even a reasonably generic one where you connect video into it and you can send something that again shows you've been thoughtful. Because I don't think it's used that much, is it? And we'll start to get face and voice and all that sort of stuff in. Are you a fan of
Yeah.
video?
Yeah, I am. I think I personally don't send them, but I always reply if somebody sends me a personalized video saying, "Hi, how are you? Blah, blah, blah." I think it just shows people have taken the time. And you see a friendly face rather than a bot on the end of the line. So
Yeah. Okay. And we could do a whole episode on DMs, but or pitch
yeah.
slaps. So actually,
Yeah.
no. The next point is about DMs, but it's don't DM people asking for engagement. I didn't know this
Oh.
was a thing. Tell us about it.
I find it so annoying. So people will DM you, they'll say, "I've just put out this post." I did a post actually asking people how annoying they find it on a scale of 1 to 10. Um, some people really don't find it annoying. Some people hate it. Some people have never had it happen to them and they can't believe it happens. So people will message you saying, "I've done this post. Please could you like and comment and share?" Right? That's not the way to get engagement. I get it if you're like, "I've done this post. Actually, we talked about something and you triggered me talking about it." Totally get that. Someone else had been on my podcast and then she was like, "Oh, would you mind just liking and commenting on this because it's kind of relevant to what we talked about in the podcast and it's the thing I was selling at the end of the podcast." So that I totally am fine with as well. It's the people who like, there's one guy, I've blocked him now. I was on his podcast maybe 2 years ago. He would message me like 3 times a week, every time a new podcast episode goes out, say like being like, "Can you like and comment on this?" Then every time a new podcast episode goes out, he tags every single person that's ever been on the podcast. Like, why?
Oh no. Guess what's gonna happen? No, it's not. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think it's like those people don't want to engage with you. You're using up credibility with those people on something that is probably like a waste of time. And if your content's not good enough to get engagement without you having to ask people for it, it's not good enough. You need to go back and get better at writing content.
So of course you reverse them and say, "Do you want to come on a little course where I can tell you how to make you?" Yeah, I mean this is slightly different. So what I do tell people to do is that you can send your post directly to somebody. Now it's not to ask for engagement, but if you've written it with your ICP in mind, there are literally probably people that you know. And actually, I do write it sometimes because somebody said something, or actually I've written that and that is so and so. So I'll just ping it to them and say, "Hey, look, when I wrote this, I was thinking of you."
Yeah,
So it's kind of like it's almost like a very personalized email, isn't it? It's just probably got a photo on it and a little bit more stuff going on. That's totally different.
exactly.
Yeah.
Totally different. And
Yeah.
if anything, that is a brilliant sign that you're talking to your customers a lot, you're understanding their problems, and you're getting a really good idea of their problems. I think it's great. And there's a lot of so I have a copywriting agency as well, and a lot of what we do is creating content that sales teams can share with warm leads, and it's so valuable.
It's kind of having, I mean, you can have it off the company website, can't you? And we'll go slightly off topic here. We have it off the company website, but I think if a salesperson takes it, rewrites it, or has it as their own post, they've then got this pool of information, haven't they? They can use it any time. If you know
Exactly.
you've written that, you might have written it 6, 7 months ago, but when the time's right, you go, "Oh, Charlie, you mentioned this, or when we were chatting about this, or I saw that this might be something you're bothered about. Here's what I wrote." Bang. My credibility as a salesperson goes right up. And you think, "Oh, I ought to speak to Fred to solve that problem."
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's we straight off into a different area. Definitely being not a dick, being very, very kind of useful and credible. Um,
Exactly.
and then we've got one more on the ultimate guide. I mean, this guide could go on forever, I suspect, but you kind of you went for five, yeah, five makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, what was the last one?
So reply to comments on your own post. So if someone's taking the time to comment on your post and you would like to continue getting engagement and building a relationship with that person, the very least you can do is reply to their comment on your post. It's so amazing to me how many people don't reply to comments on their posts, and then you're missing out on that opportunity to have a relationship with someone. So I think one of the reasons is people who are in pods, they get so much artificial engagement, they miss the real people, which is a shame. I mean, they're missing actual real leads.
The one or two that actually turned up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the kind of second reason is, I guess, people just do a sort of like post and then run off into their day. But I think it doesn't have to take up too much time. So I normally do my post at 7:30. I'll spend until 8 replying to comments. Then I'll maybe come back to it a bit later in the morning while I'm having breakfast or something. And then I'll come back to it after lunch, and then I'll kind of look again the next morning to see if anybody else has commented. So you don't need to like reply straight away. But if you want to see how your post is doing, if you want to see that it's resonating with people, if you want to get more ideas and test your ideas, it's such a useful thing to do. And it's kind of stupid not to reply to people's comments on your posts. Like, if that's what you want, that's what you need to encourage.
I'd go as far as saying you actually alienate people if you don't, because the impression you're giving is that I'm so important. Here is my wonderfulness that I'm bestowing on you as a gift to humanity. But I'm going off to do more wonderfulness over here, and I really haven't got time to be like messing around anymore. And it's
Yeah.
like, arrogant twat. Not going to look at any of your stuff if that's how you're going to be, you know. So, um, oh, cool, very cool. You've given us five excellent guides. Okay, you kind of just, well, you've done not just not what to do, but also what to do, and kind of some other reasoning and a bit of a little mini LinkedIn crash course, really. That I was actually going to say for a beginner, but it's not just a beginner's course, is it? This is a like go back, use this as a little audit of what are you up to? How are you doing it? Are you doing some of these things? We fall into bad habits. We do, you know,
Yeah.
that engage post one. I've done it loads of times. So, very cool, very cool. And this is stuff that you're posting about a lot anyway. I mean,
Yes.
that is your role. So, um, probably a bit of a silly question, this really, but where can people get in touch with you?
Oh, LinkedIn.
Twitter.
Blue
No, on
Sky.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm Charli with no E, so Charli and then Hunt.
Okay, so we'll pop a link to that in show notes. I'll pop a link to Line One as well,
Thank you.
because that's a tool which once you've mastered some of these basics and you're starting to actually see some difference and having fun again on it, he says to self, that you can then up the ante without putting tons and tons of time into it, but your effort is kind of more amplified, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Well, I never use the newsfeed anymore because of Lime. So if you're sick of seeing that same content, it doesn't need to be Lime. You could create your own lists, I guess, in a spreadsheet. But it just helps if you can have this list of people that you want to follow up with.
And you want to talk to. Brilliant, Charli. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing some dead useful stuff. I'm sure people will reach out to you, and if you do, just let them let Charli know that you heard her on this podcast here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Fred.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.